Welcome to the Almost Perfect Podcast, a celebration of fuck-ups, failures, and falling flat on your face. This is a podcast that believes you can learn from experience, but that experience doesn't have to be your own. Hi, I'm Bob Perfect, and I'm a functional fuck-up. Let's learn from somebody else's mistakes. And today we are learning from Catherine Grenfell. Now, Catherine is an executive producer and a DJ, but you probably know her from her 15 years on the radio as a producer and as a presenter at 5FM. But like I mentioned, these days she is actually an executive producer at Militia, and like she mentions in the podcast, she's now moving into music licensing, music supervision. And yeah, we obviously chat about what all of that is and how it relates to radio and how it's all different to radio and how it's just another opportunity essentially for Kath to try and put on some local bands, because she's someone who I relate to in that regard. Like, we might not have always agreed on which bands exactly we want to push, but we both have a deep passion for local music and for putting other people on. And yeah, she's someone who's done that through a number of different ways, and these days she's doing that through Audio Militia. So we'll chat a little bit about that in just a little bit. But before we do that, of course, I need to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by you. That's right, this is a listener-supported podcast entirely. All the funding for this podcast comes from patreon.com/almostperfect, or from people buying merch over at almostperfect.co.za. There's also a Zapper QR code there that you can just scan and send me a couple shekels. And yeah, it all definitely helps. As I guess I'll get into a little bit at the end of the show. For those of you who are new here, I assume there'll be a couple of you. What up? I am Bob. I'm a comedian and cultural journalist from Durban. Been doing this podcast for like 5 years, interviewed about 150 people. And it's basically just a way for me to chat to fellow creatives, fellow creators, fellow industry players, I guess, about their journeys, you know, their processes, how they got to where they are and what they've learned along the way. So yeah, welcome. I hope you enjoy the podcast, and if you do, go check out some of the previous ones. I'm sure there'll be a few familiar names that pop up. Yeah, you'll notice some of them, and there's also people you probably don't know, and you can also go check them out, because if I got them on here, I probably think they're worth knowing about. If you could also do me the big favor of liking and sharing and subscribing and doing all those things that make the numbers go up, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, if you're in Joburg on the 30th of March, I will be at the Bioscope Theatre. Very excited about this show. We're doing a Durban invasion. The Not Quite Right crew are coming up. This is the plan at the moment. Things might change, but the plan at the moment is for all of us to come up, because I'm heading up there anyway to go visit my mom and gran for Easter. So I was like, let me just book the Bioscope if it's available on that Saturday, because I'm tired of just jumping on for open slots in Joburg. I want to test the waters and test and see, you know, if there's an audience up there who will actually come out to a comedy show with me and some friends. And yeah, those friends are the Not Quite Right crew, who you can get to know through previous episodes of this podcast. Got Akil Maharaj, who's going to be on next week. He's the last member of the crew. So we're all going to be heading up to Joburg on the 30th of March. And we've got a couple people in Joburg who are going to be joining us who are originally from Durban. So that's something exciting. That's something cool to look forward to. On the 16th of February, I'm on the Bluff. I don't know the venue just yet, but it's one of Robbie Collins' gigs. He's going to be hosting that, and he asked me to jump on there. So I'm pumped for that. So that should be a dope gig. And then on the 27th, we are out at the Westville Warehouse. There's another Not Quite Right shindig that we got going down. On the 14th, obviously, it's Valentine's Day. We've got comedy hosting at Aces every Wednesday at Aces Pizza here in Durban. We do the Not Quite Right open mic. This week is Kwanda Khadebe, who's a past guest of this podcast. And yeah, comedy is on the 14th, also recent guest of this podcast. And then the 21st is my birthday, and I'll be hosting that one. So looking forward to seeing some of you there. Like for real, I think it's going to be a really fun gig. I think it's probably just going to turn into a bit of a roast, which always happens. Like every time I host, even if it's not my birthday, I always love taking their fucking jabs. And I don't mind it, because like I think I've said before, it allows me to get some new opening jokes. Like, whenever someone roasts me, I'm just like, hey, do you mind if I take that? And then I use it as my opening jokes. And it's a great way to get the crowd on your side in the beginning. Anyway, I'm babbling. I'll catch up with you after the interview. Here comes the Almost Perfect Podcast with Catherine Grenfell. So how are you living, Catherine?
How am I living? Oh, I'm actually living beautifully well at the moment. It's been a long journey. We can chat about it. I've been on a very big self-love and self-care journey. I don't want to sound all hippie vibes, but it's been for the last 2 years and it's been really amazing. So I'm living well.
So I assume that's a bit of a post-pandemic rejuvenation vibe.
I think that I don't know if I've sat down and went, this is because of COVID. I think a lot of us re-looked at our lives in that sense. And I think we just adjusted it in terms of what was really important to us. But I also realized that I'm still a mom, but looking after 3 kids, 2 of them that are grown up now. And I had focused all my attention on them. I'd focused attention on
Your
work.
career?
My career. I'd focused attention on my students when I was teaching. And I'd focused my attention on musicians and bands and other people that I did charity work for. And I had never actually put myself first. And I can't remember what the major catalyst was. I was in KZN at my folks for a holiday and I read a book called The Choice by Edith Eger. And I just remember, I think it had been a long time coming, but I just remembered going, I have to actually start putting myself first. And it's such a funny thing because actually in hindsight, I wish I'd always put myself first, because when you are a good self and you are good with yourself, then you become a better person. And I became a better mom, and I wish I'd done it sooner. So it's been a beautiful, amazing journey where I found a yoga class, and I found an amazing group of women that we did a self-love and self-care journey over the year. And I started a pottery class. I started swimming every day. And pottery has just become I live for my Monday nights when I go to pottery. It's something that I have realized. I mean, creatively, I've always been creative, but that also gets put on a back burner when you're like super busy and you're thinking about everyone else. And it's just become an absolute non-negotiable. Monday night, I will not leave work after 5. I will be going to pottery. Like, I really have to be on death's door not to be able to go. But it's taught me about beautiful creativity, about expressing myself. And I think one of the most important things is about patience and the fact that I don't have control, because I can picture what I want to make. I can put it into the firing, but it often doesn't come out exactly as I would have wanted it. So it's been some beautiful lessons. I quit smoking before COVID happened, thank goodness. Maybe I, in my mind, like foresaw the future. And I actually had, quite a health scare. My chest was like really sore. So I quit smoking. And then during my self-love journey, I quit drinking. I was like,
oh, wow.
It's not a positive. I only want positive things. I cut people out that weren't positive in my life, deleted people off Facebook and Instagram that didn't provide.
That's a must.
Yeah, it's a total must. But I think it's something that we forget. And
that you have the option. Like, you don't actually have to keep following people that creates chaos in your mind, basically.
100%. I mean, I had a best friend that she was going through her own stuff, but didn't tell me, but just completely ghosted me. And it made me so sad to constantly see her happiness on Instagram. And I was like, what the fuck? Why? Why can't you respond to my texts? And then I was just like, but I can just delete her. And I completely deleted her. I deleted her off Facebook and Instagram, and it was absolutely amazing. So back to the non-drinking thing is that it's not to say that I'm never going to drink again. I completely know that if I go to Zanzibar on holiday, I'm manifesting all this, by the way. When I go to Zanzibar on holiday, I'm definitely going to have a cocktail on the beach, a pina colada. When I go to Italy, I'm going to have a beautiful glass of wine. When I go to Greece, I'm going to have ouzo. It's not like
When you go to a music festival, you might have a tequila or two.
maybe, but I've been to numerous festivals since then, music festivals, and I now have water shots
Oh
because
wow,
I think it's for
that's a
people. It's
big
for other
change.
people. Yeah, it's for other people. They want to have a shooter, and they feel awkward if I'm standing there and I'm not doing anything. So I just have a water shot with them, and it's a vibe. And it just it wasn't bringing positivity. I would have a few drinks. I would feel shitty the next day, and I mean it is one of the factors of getting old, is
Yep.
that it takes so much longer to recover. And so what I was finding is that I would go out and DJ on a Friday night, and Saturday I was like ordering all the Uber Eats. I was lying in bed watching crap, and I missed out on life. And so that has been a major game changer. I don't actually miss it at all. I mean, the only thing that I do miss is that I have zero game when it comes to flirting with any guy, like zero game. Um, which is which is like quite sad that I had to rely on alcohol to have game. But
I mean, it does lower your inhibitions. Like, I know it well because I mean, I'm going through this month. I'm doing dry January, and I've been doing like comedy every week without it. And trust me, I notice the difference. Like, I notice when I've had a drink or two, I'm
yeah,
more relaxed. I'm smoother. Like I'm less uptight, basically.
yeah,
And it's been interesting to actually have to work through that on stage, where it's like, oh shit, this is hard now. But
totally.
it's been good.
Yeah, it's almost like you're getting to know yourself, the real self. Like what can I do as a human being without alcohol? And I used to think that like maybe dancing was something that I needed, like, just to like let loose or whatever. But I absolutely love dancing without drinking now. And I'm able to get onto stage and MC with, I mean, I don't even have to have a shot. And as you said, like there's definitely a major difference, but it's been super amazing. The lucky thing is about the flirting thing is that I part of this self-love and self-care journey is that I'm super, super happy about being on my own. So it's actually okay. And I know that like the right guy will come along where I don't need alcohol and it'll just like flow. So yeah, that's been the last few years of Kath's self-love and self-care journey. Oh, and I also started Zumba, which
What is Zumba? Is
Zumba
that
is like the cheesiest dance class on the planet. But the amazing thing is that, often, I mean, I have no actual, like, I mean, you would think that as a DJ I have rhythm. I've got that sort of rhythm. But when it comes to
you
like
can
a
count to 8. Like,
yeah, I
it's
can
not
count
about
eight,
moving.
yes.
Yeah.
Totally. But when it comes to like following someone's dance move, I'm like completely useless. I mean, I grew up in the 80s. Aerobics hit. It was massive. I so badly wanted to wear my leotard and leggings and leg warmers and kill those dance moves. And I was so bad. So I've always known that. But with Zumba, like there's obviously like she's showing you dance moves, but she just says, I don't give a fuck if you don't get the moves, just fucking move. And like, that's like music to my ears. I'm like, hell yeah. I jam like I'm at some 90s rave. Couldn't care less about anybody around me. And I work up a sweat and it's amazing. So, yes, Zumba, swimming, pottery, yoga, lifesavers.
Yeah, I mean, I do yoga pretty much every day. I do yoga with Adrian on YouTube, and
Nice.
that's been since the pandemic, basically. But even before that, I'd started out using the Nike Training Club app, and
Okay.
yeah, I've found that meditation and stuff like that has been incredibly helpful to keep me sane and somewhat healthy these days. Although I haven't taken all the steps you've taken, But I imagine this is also now because you probably have a bit more time than when you were a bit younger, and you had your career, you had your lecturing, you had kids to deal with. So I assume you didn't have that much time for hobbies, right?
I didn't, but I think that it is so important. So this is also hindsight, is to make the time.
Mm.
It has to be a non-negotiable. It has to, because you really need to do it. And even if it's something that you do at home where it's not going to cost you money, if you like get out your sketch pad or whatever the case is, or if you go into the garden and you're gardening, you have to actually make that time. And that's what I've realized in hindsight. I think that I maybe would have been a calmer person. I think that it's part of the whole, it's part of life, is that you need to make that time for yourself.
Yeah, balance.
And yeah, it is a balance. And also what I've, and then I totally forgot that one of the biggest things that I also learned was to say no. My whole entire career, I have basically said yes to people.
But that works in radio, right? Like that's a big thing in radio. It's like you can't say no to anyone. You have to just constantly be taking every opportunity. Like, anything someone says, you're like, okay, cool. This is a chance for me to like do something.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I said yes all the time, but some of it is not always positive.
Mm.
It comes, I mean, I remember there were a few years where I had said yes to a whole bunch of charity work. I mean, I climbed fucking Kilimanjaro. I'm not an exercise person, as I've
You've also
mentioned.
walked to fucking Maritzburg.
Yeah, exactly. None of this was like part of my vibe at all, but I did a lot of charity work and it actually exhausted me. And I remember that at one point my kids were like, you have to make time for us. You like training, you're at work, etc., etc. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like really shocking that that's what I'm doing. I'm just saying yes to stuff. And I also, people will message me, my students or whoever, they'll message me and they'll like, Kath, please, I'm in a bind. Can I please borrow some money? I mean, well, it's never borrow, actually. I mean, it's never ever borrow. It's, can I please have some money? And I'm really happy to help people. But I also realized that that's where I have to come first and my family has to come first.
Sure.
I will often put other people first instead of myself. And then at the end of the month, I'm sitting like, I can't even buy a loaf of bread, but I gave that person 500 Rand to get through the month.
I mean, that sounds like my mom growing up. Like we had similar situations where, yeah, she'd be helping everyone. And then at the end of the month, it's like, yeah, beans on toast.
Exactly. And so it was a huge thing for me, was to learn to say no. And it's also okay to say no. I can't save the world. I can't like look after every human being. I do, however, have to prioritize myself and my kids. Like that is the bottom line. So that's been a beautiful life lesson. And also like I used to also say yes to a lot of things. Like, yes, I'll go and talk at this thing. Yes, I'll do this. Yes, I'll do that. And actually some of it, like, it just wasn't where I should have been. I would then have like sheer anxiety about it. And that
And
wasn't good
also,
for, yeah,
I
for
know
my
for
mental
myself,
health.
yeah, like with some of that kind of stuff, the public speaking things and panel discussions and this and that, like you can just like, they can just be a waste of your time sometimes. Like they can honestly just not benefit anyone involved. Like it's just a haphazard thing that people
Mm,
put together that sometimes are almost like scams, So
yes.
yeah, I've learned from that.
Yeah. Am I going to drive an hour to go and speak to 5 people? Because that's not where I'm at the moment. And it's not saying I want to speak to 500 people. And maybe I do change, lives in that moment. Maybe someone in the five. But it's the spending the money on petrol, all of that time, and it wasn't a positive experience. So
Yeah.
now I'm very selective. I listen to my gut. I'm like, is this going to be good? Is this going to be a good thing for you? And then it's a yes or a no. And it's also okay. It's okay to say no. I mean, Jane Fonda said it took her 60 years to learn that no is a full sentence. And when I heard that, I was like, fuck yes. That is going to be my thing from now on. No is a full sentence. It's okay. I don't have to explain anything to you. I'm just saying no.
I'm fully on board with that. That's, I mean, how I've been living for quite a while now, and I like it. My
I'm
phone
slowly
doesn't
catching
buzz
up,
as
Bob.
much anymore.
Slowly catching up.
Okay, so yeah, we're at where you're at now, but let's take it back. You grew up in
Yes.
KZN. Whereabouts?
I grew up in the South Coast, in a little place called St. Michael's.
Oh, very
Um,
little place.
yes. Well, I was born in Pietermaritzburg, and
Okay.
then we moved to Shelley Beach, and then my mom got divorced, and then we moved in with my grandparents who had a missionary house there in St. Michael's.
Oh wow.
And
What was that like?
being the granddaughter of missionaries,
Yeah.
it was it was very, very religious, obviously, very religious. I went to youth group on a Friday night. I went to Sunday school on a Sunday morning. Then I went to church on a Sunday morning, and then I went to church on a Sunday night.
So your weekend schedule was planned.
It was planned. It was very, very planned. And I mean, we would have Sunday lunch and have a nap before we went to church on a Sunday night. That was the vibe. It was, when I was growing up, I thought it was quite incredible and quite amazing.
You the community.
I was obviously very religious. I thought it was incredible that my grandmother had come from America to Africa. They'd gone to the Congo, that her ship that she was on was bombed by the Nazis.
Oh,
They all
wow.
survived when the Nazis realized that it was a passenger ship with a whole bunch of missionaries. Her violin was saved, which I now have to this day. And I thought it was quite incredible that my grandmother, and then my grandfather was from Canada, came over to a place in Africa called the Congo. That was where my uncle and my mom were born, and changed people's lives, is what I thought at that point. And I just thought it was really incredible and amazing. And then obviously, as I got older, I realized that it wasn't that amazing, and that, like, everyone should be left to their own devices in their own country, with their own tribe, with their own belief system, etc. But I don't really want to go into a major religious thing. I
That's
respect
fun.
their choice of what they did. I am still quite spiritual. I mean, I can, I know the Bible backwards and forwards because of
Same.
my upbringing. But I also, as I said, I grew up, I mean, I was born in the mid 70s. And so my main influence was the 80s, basically, when I was young.
And what was that like in South Africa at the time? I actually haven't chatted to too many people about that, as a white person growing up
Yeah,
then, like what were the cultural influences, I guess, like, because I imagine there was still there was stuff coming in from overseas, but there was also a lot that wasn't.
yes. So, I mean, I was privileged. I was white, obviously. So
Yeah.
I got to go walk across the road to the beach, and I got to do all of that stuff. Just quickly touching on the religious stuff is that in the 80s there was lots of movies about how the second coming was going to happen, and that if you weren't saved you were going to die, and it was
You're going to be in hell for 1,000 years. And yeah.
100%. And the videos that they showed us were absolutely terrifying. And I remember that religion became terrifying. I was so terrified all the time. And it was
Well, that's
only
part
later
of the
that
psychological control. Yeah.
100%. But I definitely think things have changed when it comes to religion. There's a lot of I think there's a lot of beauty in different religions,
Sure.
and but there was definitely the 80s. There were loads of these movies that came out that were just completely
Yeah, there was
fucking
the
terrible.
satanic panic as well.
Yes, and oh my God, listening to records backwards, which I mean, in hindsight, I look at my record player, I'm like, who the fuck is putting this thing on reverse? You know what I mean? No one is.
Hey,
You're
man,
talking
I
about,
tried. I tried. I
but it's such
definitely pulled them backwards myself just to see what would
totally.
happen.
But I mean, all that stuff, the Care Bears were from the devil, and this was, I mean, He-Man, and oh God, it was everything was just made into such a terrifying childhood, actually.
Yeah,
You couldn't
I
actually
relate
be,
there.
yeah, which was super sad. But in terms of South Africa, my mom worked at a clinic, and I would go there all the time, and it was for Black people, and I think I was oblivious to what was happening outside of the stuff that was. I was going to that clinic every day. I was hanging out with Black people every day, and so I mean, obviously there must have been, when I went to the beach, there must have been signs that said blancas only, whatever,
That's like the blankers.
And I can't actually remember that. I can't remember it. And I think that maybe because my mom was extremely liberal, and maybe because my grandparents were missionaries, my uncle became a missionary in Kenya. They spoke Swahili.
Okay.
I think that maybe it was slightly, I got a slightly blurred look at what life was like in South Africa in that sense. So I mean, it was definitely there, but I think that because I grew up in a very liberal home, I didn't see it as much as other people. And I'm talking about when I was young.
Yeah.
Hey,
I know.
I'm not talking about like 5 to like, let's say 10 or 12. Because when I was 12, my mom got remarried and we moved to Pretoria. And then I just hated the fact that I'd been moved to this Afrikaans city that had no sea. And so I was
that's a big culture shock.
A huge culture shock. Also, when I was in KZN, we didn't learn Afrikaans. You only learned Afrikaans in grade 2. No, yeah, or standard 2. So what's that? Grade 4.
Yeah.
And so I think I'd had 1 year of pathetic Afrikaans, and I moved to, it was an English school, but we were learning Afrikaans, and I had to go to immigrant Afrikaans lessons with the American students and the French students. I was like, it was bizarre,
I mean, that's to this day, that's a KZN thing. Like, we just don't speak Afrikaans.
Yeah, although when I go now to my parents, because they live in Ramsgate in KZN.
Oh yeah, the South Coast is definitely but that's because of all the Joe burgers.
100%. Well, the Pretoria people, the Varleys, as we used to call them, they moved all the way down there.
I don't know if rock spider is like still derogatory or that derogatory, but that's what we used to say.
Yes, we 100% used to say that. But yeah, so then I was just a horrid teenager that then discovered Radio 5 and Barney Simon and was listening to that sort of music. I mean, I was also very lucky. My dad loved music, and he would introduce me to the Bangles and to the Moody Blues and just like all these amazing artists.
And you were into music from a young age as well, right? Because you used to play piano.
Yeah, I used to play the piano, yes. I started playing when I was 5. And so that was like really amazing, the music thing. And then, of course, when I hit high school, it was the most amazing thing. We were the first year to get Black students in our school, and it was a mind-blowing time. I'm such a bad memory person. Like, I feel like I have like snippets of memories, and I definitely remember the Black students arriving at our school and being so incredibly excited about this positive way forward. But I wasn't like at school. I'd never went and protested. Sadly, I think that my mom was very, very conservative, even though she was liberal. She was very, very conservative, as you can well imagine. And so we never like did anything that would rock the boat.
Sure.
But that was sort of like my childhood. I mean, I also had 2 imaginary friends. I don't know if you maybe found that information.
No, I hadn't found that out, actually. That doesn't come up in other interviews I've heard.
Damn. Well, maybe you're the first that I'm chatting to about it. I mean, I really had, when I was little, I had 2 imaginary friends. They were called Gingy and Messi. I can still picture them to this day. And I don't know if you ever received, and I also think this might be an 80s thing, but there was like a drawing board that you had like plastic pencil, and then there was a wiper that you could scratch across, and the neon pink lines went away. Anyway, the one that I'd obviously been given it had like a neon pink line, and that's how they looked. They were these neon pink line drawings. Gengi was extremely like super neat, little plaits on either side of her head, and always neat. And Messy was messy, squiggly hair, like your typical how you picture a kid's drawing with the curly hair and craziness. And I actually everybody knew about them. That's how prominent they were. And one day I nearly died because we were crossing the road and Gengi was holding my mom's hand. Then I was holding my mom's hand and Messy was holding my other hand. And as we were crossing the road, Messy pulled her hand out of my hand and I ripped my hand out of my mom's hand and ran across the road. There was a truck
Jesus.
that just missed me to go and fetch Messy. So, I mean, I definitely and
Yo.
it's funny. It was vivid. And I mean, props to my mom that, I mean, I never went to therapy or anything for that. And she never, ever told me that they didn't exist, which is quite amazing, as I said, from a very conservative household, I mean, how she didn't think I was completely mental. But anyway, I definitely think it was the left and right hand side of my brain, obviously, these two little girls. And then they left when I went to school. But super fascinating that I can still completely picture them. But yeah, they went. So that was my child.
Did you ever see the movie Drop Dead Fred?
I think I did.
With the imaginary friend,
Yes. But that was super real. This was, I mean, they were completely little line drawings. I mean,
it's almost like Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Like what you're describing there sounds like actual characters from the show.
100%. I mean, maybe I should do a whole sequence in there. Maybe I've been thinking about what to do next for pottery. Maybe I'll do a Gengi and Messy series.
There's also like a dark, like a comedy show there with like imaginary friends that are always trying to get a kid killed.
Totally. How we dodged dying. But yes. So sorry, I'm rambling back and forth about different times. But what I was trying to say was that my memory is super bad in terms of what happened in life in general and what was happening around me. But there were certain things that obviously really stuck out. And obviously 94 was a massive 90. Well, I mean, I think that the Black students came to our school in 92. And
you see, for me, that's not a big memory at all because I was so young. So for me, I don't really remember much of 1994, but I remember the 1995 World Cup really vividly because I was at boarding school then, and I was at boarding school for both those years. And, we decorated the TV room with Tazos and so I'm with you. There's certain moments that throughout your own personal history that stick out. And that's why I'm always skeptic about biographies and stuff when people say a conversation went a certain way. I'm like, how the hell do you remember the words said 20 years ago? I don't believe you.
I read Steve Adler's biography, and I read
who's that? I don't know.
He's from Guns N' Roses, and he was from Guns N' Roses, and I read Ozzy Osbourne's biography.
Yeah, that's going to be a bit chaotic.
I cannot comprehend how much he remembers. Honestly, when I read the book, obviously you're blown away the whole time about what's happening. But the entire time I was like, I know for a fact that he's older than me, obviously. And I know for the fact that I've never done any drugs. I've smoked some weed. I've never done any drugs, any hardcore drugs. So I have that in my favor in terms of remembering. I have drunk. I think that Ozzy beats me on both of those things. And how the fuck does he remember so much stuff and I cannot remember just masses of stuff? It's quite
maybe
disturbing.
Cocaine actually helps your memory. Who knows?
Maybe. God, I was I should have done more, but I can't remember certain things. And so when I get asked about childhood and stuff, that's why I'm going to mention the stuff that I remember. And that was going to the clinic with my mom. Totally remember that being and obviously my grandmother and my grandfather, their stories, and my imaginary friends. And then and then the whole of South Africa changing for the most incredible thing. So yeah, that was it. And I was stuck in Pretoria. I think I've always been sad that I left the sea. Even though my mom said to me numerous times, but you never went to the sea. When we lived across the road from the sea, you would go there occasionally. I was like, that's
nice to have the option.
Exactly.
That's every Durbanite. We don't go to the beach. Like Joburgers go to the beach. Like we,
Yes.
we chill. But like,
I know.
Durbanites
But
go
the
on
option,
hikes like up, to Kranzkloof and this and that. But yeah, like the beach, we go for a walk along the promenade,
yeah, totally. And I mean, it's now, my favorite holidays are 100% beach holidays. It has to be at the beach. And that is my total happy place. And one day I know I will live at the beach again.
Well, I know a lot of people from up north have been moving down here, but like even I know Skulk Bezaidenhout, he's going to be moving down pretty soon. And like there's a few people, like even Robbie Collins, he's like moved back to Durban. And like
Yes.
they find that it's actually possible to, if you can tour and if you can make it work, it's actually quite a workable situation if you make your money elsewhere. If you make your money here, then you're going to have a problem.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, I think, it's in the cards for my future is to like, and I say in the cards, it's just a saying. I don't mean I did some tarot cards or whatever, but it is like in my future is to work remotely, spend some time at different places, and just travel around the country. I really, truly and utterly love South Africa. Transkei is one of my favorite places in the entire world. And I recently discovered Lesotho, going there for a holiday for the first time. And it's magical. And so that's where I see myself, is like working remotely, traveling around, going wherever I can with my 3 cats. I'll be that crazy cat lady traveling around and doing some clay work.
That's the only reason why I don't have a cat at the moment is just because like I want to, move eventually. And I'm just like, I can't go through all of that. But yeah, well, let's actually, like we might get into radio, I guess, at some point. But I do want to talk about what you're doing these days. Because also, I think people know you already a little bit about the whole 5FM stuff. But one of the cool things you're doing now is Audio Militia. So tell me about that, please. What is it? When did it start? How did it come about? Because I know Starb works on it, and I know, you guys have done some great work. So
totally. So yes, I had an incredible 15 and a half year radio career. And then at the same time, I was, for about 5 or 6 years, I was teaching at Boston Media House. I was teaching radio. And there was one class that I was giving that, obviously the syllabus stays the same. So I was giving this class over and over about burnout. And it wasn't like physical burnout, it was creative burnout.
Yeah, the
and
irony.
while I was giving this class, the irony, and I suddenly like had an epiphany as I was talking to my students. I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I'm going through. And so I decided to leave radio. It was a massive decision. My kids were like, you're going to be so uncool. I'm like, oh, thank God you actually thought I was cool, but okay. But I think that they were sad about getting free shit, that wasn't going to happen, and they wouldn't be able to get to like free concerts.
You guys were the original like influencers.
100%. Yes, totally. And I was very, very lucky. Like I really had the most beautifully amazing career. So I didn't take the decision lightly. I was then asked, there were a few very, very high profile DJs that wanted me to come and produce their show. And I just had to be honest that like, it doesn't matter where I go. I just knew that I wouldn't be giving them 100%. And so I had to say to people, thank you so much for the offer. I can't do this. And I decided to freelance for a bit. And I was doing some sort of social media content for a company, and I was doing a whole bunch of different things. And then I realized that I was like, this is so hard. Because even though I was a freelancer at 5FM, I still basically had a monthly salary, in the sense that I was working every day. And I think being a single mom with 3 kids at school it's no joke in terms of freelancing. It's flippin' hectic. And a friend of mine messaged me the one day and said to me, Kath, another friend of ours has gone for an interview at Audio Militia, and I think you should also apply. And I knew that Nick Argyros, who was in 16 Stitch, and Paul, so the three directors, it's Craig, who was in Pestroy, and then Paul and Nick, who were in 16 Stitch and Newtown Knife Gang. So I knew all of them, obviously, but I knew Nick the most. And I phoned him up and I said to him, I heard that my friend, blah, 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 has applied for this job, but I need to tell you that I am the right person for this job. And I want to know when I can start.
Ballsy, I like it.
Wow. And he started laughing. And one of those like nervous laughters, but like he couldn't believe that I was so ballsy, but couldn't believe that like he was just completely thrown by the whole thing. And he said, Kath, I'm getting onto a plane to go to France. Can we set up a meeting? We'll do a Skype when I get back. And I said, cool, no probs. I'll be waiting and I'll be ready to start whenever you need me to. Anyway, so I just bided my time. We do the Skype. I'm like, I bullshitted my way through the interview because I've basically only done radio. I had no idea what any of this television commercial lingo was.
But didn't you study lighting and sound, or did I get that wrong?
Lighting and sound.
Yeah.
But that was like, I worked as a sound engineer for theater and like live stuff. I mean,
okay, sure. Very different.
It's very, very different when it comes to in a studio. I mean, we had touched on it, but I'd never done any like major studio work. And also I was applying to be the producer here, which meant I had to deal with clients and I had to know all this lingo like OMFs and AAFs and TVCs. I mean, for God's sake, I didn't even know like when he said TVC, I was like sitting there going, TVC. Anyway, I Googled my way through as well. I mean, such an amazing thing.
I mean, that's what I do for voice job applications.
100%, So I just knew in my heart that it was a really perfect fit. I love music. Everybody knows how much I love music. And for me, this was a fucking music studio. Like I was amped. It didn't matter. I mean, I was going to get this job. And I did get the job, obviously, because I told them that I was getting the job. And I got thrown into the deep end. And I think, I'm trying to remember, I think I was like turning 40 or I was 39 going to be 40. And I knew that my brain needed a fucking electric shock of learning something new and being excited about some new work thing,
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it was. I learned from scratch. I have been able to use my connections with the music industry. I've been able to use music artists that I want to work with. And bear in mind that, I mean, the thing that we do the most is TVCs, television commercials. And we do radio ads. No need to Google. I've got you. And, so it's a very fast turnaround, did final mix and sound design. I mean, not me personally. Obviously, we have these amazing composers and engineers, but it was just so exciting. And it really was. I think I can highly recommend changing your career at some point to give your brain a boost, or learning something new, whatever it is. I mean, at the moment, I'm moving more into music supervision, which is really exciting. And
you're gonna need to also explain these things. Okay. So what's a producer like do at a studio like Audio Militia? Because like you say, you guys produce a lot of stuff for TV and that. Also, do you guys handle licensing at all, or is that something separate?
All of that. Okay. So that's exactly what I do. So it's like a production producer. So you are dealing with the client, you're getting the information, you're relaying that information to your engineers, you're making sure that they have all of the media that they need, that they have all of the music, that they have the right voiceover artist. All of that comes into play. And you as the producer need to make sure that everything is sorted, that your engineer or your composer's life is made easier. And I think that's why I I just fell into this job so easily and it just worked so beautifully is because that's exactly what I did in radio. I
Yeah, I
produced a show.
imagine.
Yeah, I had to make sure that everything was there and I had to make sure that the main presenter had everything that they needed and their life was so seamless that they did a good radio show. That was my entire job. So basically it was doing that into a studio space. So that's what I started doing. I then started working with licensing and sync deals. So sync meaning either finding a famous track or a famous artist or musician to perform on a radio track, not a radio track, on a TV commercial or a radio ad, etc. So I do all of that. So I've had to learn. I failed maths at school. Another amazing thing that people of this generation, I always find the boomers mostly and a lot of Generation X will moan about the fact that there's a 30% pass rate, but little do they remember that we at school never had to actually take maths. It was not compulsory to take maths. And also we had this thing called fucking lower grade, which was basically a 30% pass rate. So actually they did away with standard grade, higher grade and whatnot, and it's all still there. But anyway, I failed maths. And then I had to start doing quoting and I had to work out percentages of things. And I was like having near heart attacks, but it suddenly became all evident that I could do all of this stuff because it was something that I was really enjoying doing. And I suppose that's the lesson in life. Just enjoy doing math and then you can pass. But so quoting I'm now moving into really like focusing on the music side of things. I've hired another producer that's like going to focus on the final mix and the sound design of TV adverts and radio ads, etc. And I'm going to focus on the music side of things, which is really my passion. So music supervision,
right up your alley because you've been doing that already for years.
Exactly. And so music supervision is like looking at a TV commercial or looking at a series or looking at a film and thinking about what tracks would work really well there. But as it is in South Africa, we have this massive problem with the dollar rand exchange problem and budget wise, so it's really trying to look for stuff that works and it works within the budget. And I am massively pushing local music, obviously, because that's what I've done my whole life. And I think that we need to stop using international tracks and really like focus on local stuff. We've got the most incredible catalog of the most amazing South African music. And why shouldn't our artists get extra money? Because it's really great money,
I mean, I know bands back in the day, like Fire Through the Window had that iTunes ad that was on TV and stuff. Yeah. And like that definitely helped them, eat for quite some time.
100%. There's really good money to be made. So that's my mission at the moment, is to really push local, but be a music supervisor and just give a really good opinion on what music I think would work. And it's really exciting. So I'm sort of on my next little journey in that sense, that I'm now turning 48 this year and I'm still wanting to do amazing stuff with local music and just making sure that our artists are looked after, It's such a massive thing for me. So yeah, that is what I'm doing now. It's heavily like business vibes. Don't get me wrong. I have to wear nice clothes and look fancy, so I make a good impression on clients and brands, and I have to speak in front of people and tell them why they should be using our studios, etc. And I'm still doing money things and budgets, which is all brand new for me. I mean, I've never flipping done a budget in my life, and I'd never done a quote and all of that. And so it's exciting, I can highly, like, as I said, I can highly recommend trying out new things and letting doors open for you and being open to letting go of the comfort zone and trying some new job. It's really flippin' rad.
And what is dope about this job, I guess, is that it is an extension almost of what you've done before. And so you had some of the skills, but as you're saying, like the math, the business side of things, all of that. But the cool thing is, yeah, you get to, I would say even more now in some ways, like actually put local music on. Because I know that was a big thing that you did on the radio, but obviously there's its own, there's other people involved in those processes as well that say whether or not
Absolutely.
something gets on. So do you find you
Yeah.
have a bit more freedom now?
I think it's,
Or you still got to balance
I
the
have a bit.
commercial aspects, I guess.
Yes, because now you also have an agency and you've got a client and you've got a brand and you've got all of these things that then factor in, and a director, and all of them have an opinion on music, and they're the ones that are going to say yes or no. So there is a little bit of influence there, but it's up to them at the end of the day. So maybe it's even like, I've never compared it to my radio thing, but you are 100% right now that you've just said it. It's exactly the same in a sense, because I always had an opinion about South African music and what I thought would work on radio, or what I thought was a great track. And then there is still that one person that gets to say yes or no. So very similar. It's a very similar vibe. I'm very well versed and practiced in being told no.
But also, are there any tips on, trying to convince people of the fact that, no, this is actually the right choice?
Tips. Let me just think about that in terms of like an actual reference that I've used. Tips is that if I really love a song, if I really think it'll work, I think it just comes out in how you talk about it. And I honestly think that once you take the track that you want and you put it against the picture, whether it's the ad, etc., and it really works, I think that's where you convince someone that is what it should be. So, I mean, I have been told. I mean, the other day I did something that I thought was absolutely magnificent, and every single engineer and composer was like, "Oh my God, Kath, you've done the solve. You've solved it. You've solved the problem with the ad." And the client came back and was like, "Nah, I'm okay. I'm just going to use that other track." And I was like, "No."
I think everyone that works in the creative industry just got flashbacks to
Exactly.
their own
All the
experiences with
time.
that. Clients always knows best.
100%. And sometimes you've just got to let it go. I mean, it's the same as when I DJ. There's certain tracks that I absolutely love, but I can listen to those at home. I get hired to DJ for a group of people. And so
Yeah, we have got
I will play.
completely opposite philosophies.
I know.
I'm just like, this is what you're gonna listen to, and then only 5 of you like it. I don't care. Like,
And
oh,
I know that I get hired to like make people dance. And so I'm just going to play what I know they're going to enjoy, and what I know that's going to work. And then I go home and I listen to the stuff that I want to listen to in the car. I mean, I will obviously always throw in like a little track every now and then. I mean, I DJ'd on Saturday night and I played Wet Leg and I played the new Idols track. And
oh, nice. Where'd you play? Because I mean, that's stuff that's on my set. So
100%, it was a friend's birthday party, but it was
nice.
very like uber cool because it was like all the creatives in the industry. And there was only one person that came up and they knew that the track, but the tracks, but it was also fine because
But you also
I
you
knew
make
that they were
someone's night when you do that. Like,
exactly. So, but I also knew that to get the people to dance, I had to just play certain things. And I mean, it is what it is, I do go home and I listen to stuff that I love and that I like. And then it's also okay. I've let go of being precious about these sort of things. We're making an ad. I'm not saving a life.
fair enough.
I really
Don't
we're
let
not.
the lorries hear that.
But it is. It's important to remember that. Otherwise, you're going to be sad all the time. I would be sad.
When did you
Be
find
sad that
that balance though? Because I imagine when you were younger, you probably, when you were starting out DJing and when you're starting out in radio, you must have been a bit more like, no, guys, you must listen to me. Because I know, like, when
I
we're
was.
young and into punk and
Yeah,
rock music, you can have opinions.
yes, I was very opinionated, and I know there were lots of people that hated me on radio. I know that. Like,
It's part of the
I
job.
mean, yeah, it is part of the job. And it's also, I mean, I had to learn to listen to people. I had to learn to like hear someone else's point of view. It was a very important, and I think that that's what made our radio show so amazing. Is that yes, we did have arguments. Yes, we did have like heated moments, but it was also about giving someone the respect to listen to them. So I did learn that, but I was opinionated. I was like, my music is so amazing. But someone once said to me that, Catherine, that when your favorite band is writing a track, some other pop artists, some other hip hop artists, they're going through exactly the same thing. They're sitting there, they're writing something, they're writing that music. They are, whether it's like following a formula or whatever the case is. I mean, just about every single band follows a formula, whether it's rock or hip hop or pop.
Sure.
And they're putting their heart and soul into it. And I had to sit back and go, absolutely. Like, it doesn't matter what genre it is. That person is like poured something of themselves into that song. And I have to respect them for that. And whether it is I like it or not, I don't have to talk about it. I don't have to like play it. It doesn't have to affect my life. And so that was a major, well done, Kath, on remembering that.
I still remember one of our little online
Yes,
arguments was based around this exact thing. Because
100%.
I remember you wrote a thing for Tex where you were like, why can't people just, keep quiet about the things they hate? And I was just like, it helps the discourse. And it's also like, I also just think like, for me personally, it's fun. It's fun to be a hater.
Yeah.
And also, I do also just think like, it's freedom of expression and it's dope it creates discussion at the end of the day.
Mm.
Like someone,
Yeah.
but also I get where you're coming from as well, but I'm just, I come from the world of criticism and I love criticism, even with my own work, like,
Yes.
some people hate the shit I've done. I'm like, that's cool. Good for you.
I 100% get it. I mean, I think we had that little thing, and it was also like, I wasn't even like cross about the fact that you were dissing me at all. You know what I mean? And that's in that moment. I think that I just realized at some point in my life that I was spending energy, like my energy that I could have been using for something really amazing, by getting cross or upset about something that actually doesn't affect me. And that was a big thing. If Justin Bieber comes to South Africa, fuck, so what? I mean, I did go and watch him twice, Bob. And I
your money.
thoroughly enjoyed the concert, and I thought it was flipping amazing for what it was. But other stuff, if there's someone that I just really couldn't give a shit about, I'm just going to carry on with my life, and I don't care. There's thousands of other people that are going to enjoy it. And so that's what I shifted in my brain, like from being very opinionated, my music was the best music, to, I mean, I suppose it is. I've become like this fucking hippie loving peace person where, just do your thing, boo, whatever you want to do. And just rather, I pick my battles.
Yeah, I'm with you there
And
fully.
I pick my battles, and the fact that, I can't even think of someone like whoever that's coming to South Africa. Doesn't matter. Don't care. So it was a big life lesson, like, just don't, and we will always define this, and it's okay.
Well, no, I'm like halfway there with you, because like I'm at a point where I'm not gonna watch Dave Chappelle's new special. Like I don't care. I'm done. Like I know there's a better way for me to spend my time. So like
you're not gonna spend like 4 hours writing a whole article on why it's shit that Dave Chappelle brought out a new live DVD or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
A million people are doing it already. Like those think pieces are written from like 0.1 seconds of that thing starting. So I don't think there's much I can even add to the conversation.
Absolutely. But I mean, I'm glad, Bob. This is exciting stuff.
I mean, but like I still do, like, I mean, also just because of my role like as a comedian and cultural
Yeah.
critic or whatever, I do still decide whether or not I'm going to weigh in on the discourse sometimes. Like, I had some things to say about the Matt Rife controversy and all of that.
For sure.
And like
For
within my circles, like, in real life and stuff, conversations I had, comedians definitely don't shy away from talking about literally everything that's happening always. So those
Yeah.
conversations get quite lit. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I'm no longer taking time out of my day to like engage with shit that I don't care about that much, unless I feel like I can get a laugh out of it. Then I'm like, if I can
Yeah.
think of a good joke, then yeah, I'm gonna get involved in the discourse. And then when people are like, "You're canceled," I'll be like, "It was a joke."
I think that's a positive thing, though. At the end of the day, you're going to have this discussion, you're going to have this argument, or whatever, and then you're going to use it for your comedy show. So that to me is a positive thing. I mean, I have spent numerous hours having major arguments on Facebook in the past. Where you have
Yeah.
like these massive, massive arguments, and like I'm like, fuck, for what
Yep.
anymore? Just I mean, you can whatever your stance is on Israel and Palestine. Like, I'll have a like give some facts, and then if the person is just not going to change their mind, I'd just rather just fucking delete them,
Yep.
and then not going to be in my face. I mean, we can't change every human being, and we can't change everyone's opinions, but I just refuse nowadays to post and have arguments and try and get an opinion across.
Yeah, it's a waste of your day, like, doing that. I used to waste so much time, and the thing that makes it, like, even more evil at the end of the day is you're just making money for Twitter and Facebook and stuff when you do this, and you're not even focusing on your own life.
100%. Let's make money for ourselves.
Exactly. Okay, so I think that's a good place to bring us to the end of the conversation. I'm going to ask you one last question, which we ask every guest, and that is, what is a big mistake that you have learned an important lesson from?
Sure. Big mistake. Oh my God, I've made so many. I think, and I think being in the public eye for that period of time that I was, is that sometimes we think that we're doing good things, but we don't know all of the facts. And
Sure.
perhaps someone asks you to do something, or maybe advertise a brand, or whatever the case is, and often you see the money and you don't really do a deep dive into what that brand stands for, etc. And I've made a couple of mistakes with those sort of things, and I think that what I stand for now, I mean, I've always been someone that's like very honest and stood for good things, but I did make those mistakes of maybe choosing a brand that morally I should not have chosen to work with, or people that I've chosen to work with that in hindsight you didn't know all the facts about them, etc.
Sure.
Um,
I mean, that's a big part of the entertainment industry, unfortunately, both those things.
100%. And I think really sometimes, money is a big talker in our lives, and you want to survive. And that's one thing that I can say is that money doesn't add up to that, making that mistake. And even if it is for yourself, I mean, some of that stuff sits with me to this day, that I maybe worked with a brand that did bad things, or I worked with someone, did I see anything? Was I oblivious? I'm not actually sure if I'm answering your damn question.
No,
Is
I mean, I
that,
think
but
that's really, like,
yeah,
getting into it, and it's really important stuff, so thanks.
yeah. I think just really, really think about it. Think about who you work with. Try and do all the research you can. Think about, and I mean, that's not just for people. It is really for like brands as well, etc. And money isn't the be all and end all of life, even though it is important. We want to eat, you know. But yeah, it's
Man
not
cannot live
worth
on
it.
bread alone, though.
100%. And yeah, it isn't worth it. And no one would ever even remember some of the stuff, but
You
I
do.
do.
Yeah.
I do. And I'm like, I'm sad about it. And I also never I never wanted someone to call me out. I didn't want to ever make a mistake. And
That must be a big part of being in the public eye, though, right? If you don't mind discussing
totally,
that. Yeah.
100%. It's huge. And I mean, I'm not even on a level. I looked at the other day, like, you see these celebs overseas. I mean, it's like a gazillion times worse. And you're just fucking walking down the street, or you're eating an ice cream, or you're eating. Oh my God, can you imagine how shit your life must be? That the whole time there is someone filming you. If I think I'm driving in the car and I don't know, scratch my nose and it looks like I'm peeing in my nose, whatever. Can you imagine if there was a photographer there? Oh my God. But anyway, I digress. The fact is that there were people that called me out about certain things. And it was really soul destroying. It was absolutely awful to make those sort of mistakes. I mean, I suppose everyone needs to make mistakes to learn about what not to do again.
It's just yours on a bit more of a public
100%. So I would, just your morals are what should always be first, I think. So that was my mistake. Also, dating dickheads is like, I'm joking. What shapes you to what you are today. You learn from your mistakes. Oh, God, I'm being ridiculous, but yes, yeah. Keep your morals. Keep what you stand for. Don't digress from that.
Sweet. Cool. Thank you so much. This has actually been really enlightening and really fun. Thank you.
It's a pleasure, Bob. I can't wait. I mean, just send me a message there about anything else that you found that was dodgy that we didn't.
Nothing dodgy or whatever, but it was just funny to me that you got a bursary for fine art and then didn't study that and like wanted to get into architecture and special effects and makeup and all these different things. So that's like the only thing left on my notes.
Yes. I mean, look at that. That's another thing. Like sometimes the most amazing things happen to you and your path is something completely, completely different. And I mean, I would never have been where I am today if I'd studied fine arts, and I would never be where I am today if I had done nursing at Gray's Hospital, which was my other choice where I was going. I don't know if that was in there.
No, that wasn't.
It was those two things. I got a bursary to study fine arts, and I got into Gray's Nursing College.
Yeah,
hilarious.
I mean, that makes sense why you still want to look after other people and everything.
Yes, yeah. I think I would have made a good nurse, actually, and I think I would have made a decent fine artist.
I mean, there's still time.
But, yes, there is still time. Well, look at me. I've discovered
pottery. Exactly.
Yes. Oh, so there's nothing that bad out there. Okay, I'll keep the bad secrets to myself.
Well, yeah, not that I could find, but
Excellent. But it's been so rad chatting, Bob. It really has. And I mean, it is amazing because you have been a part of my career, and and not that we've hung out for days.
No, just at music festivals every now and again.
Absolutely. And I mean, it becomes a beautiful part of the memories, the stuff that I do remember. So yes. Thank you.
You'll remember next time because you'll be doing water shots. So
absolutely, I will remember. And thank you. It's such an honor to be asked to be on your podcast. I'm very grateful.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure because I was just curious, how things have gone since you've left Five and that. So it was great to actually get to know you better.
Thank you. It's lovely next time we'll have to have a full conversation so I can get to know you better.
Well, yeah, you can. When you start a podcast, I'll be your first guest.
Damn straight. It might be on the cards. Oh my God, I'm so cheesy. Let's go. Thanks, Bob.
So that was Catherine. I'm sure you learned quite a bit from that. I know I did. And yeah, it was cool catching up because we're festival friends. Like I don't know if I've ever mentioned on the podcast my idea of festival friends. I don't even think it's my idea, to be honest. It's an idea that someone I'm friends with probably came up with many, many years ago. But the concept is essentially that festival friends are like, the best. Because whenever you go to a music festival around the country, especially if you're a part of the music scene, you start seeing the same people, from different bands, from different aspects of the community and that, and you become friends, but mostly just festival friends. You don't actually see them anywhere else. You don't actually necessarily interact with them any other way, and you don't get to see their shitty parts, I guess. Like in each city, the people who you might think are the coolest that you're hanging with at music festivals or whatever, other people might fucking hate those people because of, their personal histories with them. But you never get to see that. You never necessarily get to see the negatives of someone when you're festival friends. So, yeah, Kath and I are people who, before this conversation, I guess kind of knew each other from afar and from brief interactions. And then a few little online spats, I guess, but not really. It's mostly just me trying to get clout from attacking people who have a bigger profile than me. It's not like that was ever a tactic of Durban is yours at all. Wasn't like that was an editorial stance or anything. Oh man. But yeah, I hope you dig that. And if you do dig it, like, share, subscribe, etc. I'm gonna start reminding people to do that a bit more, because I've been checking like the analytics and stuff like that on the various pages. And on Instagram, for the one post I put out there was like 87 people saw it. There's over 1,500 people who follow the Almost Perfect Instagram page, but for some reason, they're not really seeing it. So if you can like and comment and be like, yo, that was a good interview or whatever, that would probably help it get seen by more people who actually already kind of want to see it, but for some reason Instagram's just like, nah, fuck you. Like, I think it's the same thing with YouTube, because this podcast starts with swearing at the beginning, and a few of the conversations we've had have delved into some topics like unaliving yourself. I'm gonna say that for the YouTube censors and various other things. And I think I might be a little shadow banned there. But I don't fucking know, man. I just know that these deserve to be heard by more people. So if you can help me make that happen, that would be greatly fucking appreciated. I'll be honest with you, this week's been a little, disheartening. I've been back on the grind when it comes to job searching and stuff. Like, I've been, I don't even know how long I've been searching for, a full-time job. Because I've got other work here and there that comes in every now and again from freelance stuff, but yeah, I wanna fucking have a salary at the moment, and that's proving to be a bit of a fucking struggle, man. I'm grateful, the one place that I applied to this week actually replied. Most places don't. Most places don't let you know fuck all, but they replied saying, hey, we're not, considering you, whatever. There's lots of people who have applied, blah 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 blah. And I appreciated that, but I was just like, not even a fucking interview. You're not even gonna call me in for an interview. And let me read the job description to you guys, so you might be like, I think Bob could probably do that job. So here's the job description. You'll step into the spotlight and embrace the cameras as you create engaging original content for TikTok, Instagram, and more. Your outgoing personality will shine through, making you a beloved figure amongst our community. Your role extends beyond content creation to being an ambassador for small business owners, giving them a voice and a platform to share their ideas. Weird. It's not like I already do that. From videos to podcasts, webinars to live events, your creativity knows no bounds. You'll be the mastermind and host crafting content that resonates and captivates. So yeah, that's all stuff I can do pretty well. And my CV definitely highlights that. I have done all these things. I've done all these things at a pretty high fucking level. I've done very large things, with regards to all of these. So to not even be considered to be brought in for an interview was pretty fucking demoralizing, especially since I've probably sent out my CV about 1,000 times, in the last year or so. At least, I would say. and I've probably gotten about 10 responses. 5 of those led to interviews or like another step, and that's it. That's fucking it. I think I even mentioned like a while back when I was going through this process how I got called in for an interview and the people didn't even fucking let me know that I didn't get the job. Like, that was just fuck, dude. It does just get to me, you know. It does just make me go like, where's the fucking love, man? Where's the love? Where's the consideration and all of that when it comes to those sorts of things? Like, you know, I took the fucking time out of my day to catch Ubers to go to this interview, and like, yeah, it cost me fucking money, and it cost me time, and it cost me, you know, emotional, not distress or whatever, but, you know, definitely thought like, hey, like, this is a cool opportunity. It's like, sure, you know, I get a little bit ahead of myself sometimes, but, you know, you do start thinking, oh, what would life be like if I was doing this? And to not even be told like, nah, you didn't get the job, I don't know, man. Like, where's the decorum? But yeah, that's been my week, I guess. That's been some of the stuff that's been on my mind. Do you relate? Have you been going through similar situations? I know I'm not the only one who's been having issues with this, so feel free to reach out and let me know what your experiences have been like, because yeah, I'd like to feel slightly less lonely and like slightly less of a loser, I guess, because that's the reality. Like, when you struggle to find employment, when people just keep looking at your CV and going, nah, it feels like a personal judgment sometimes, and I know you shouldn't take those things personally, but it's hard not to. So yeah. Anyway, time for me to shill for money, because that does bring us to the end of the show, which means it's time to give the shout outs. Every week on this podcast, we give shout outs to the titular titles tier over patreon.com. Now, this is the top tier. It's a $10 tier, and you get to pick your title, and then I shout you out. Also, every new patron gets shouted out as well. But yeah, shout outs to Rousseau, the storage clerk of subtle heresies in the Lesser Overberg region. Russell Grant, the Far East correspondent. Neil Green, the key grip. Karan Chetty, the assistant to the regional manager. Kath Jenkin, the inevitable ruler of the universe and Queen Swifty. And Stephen Olivier, the executive producer. Of course, I want to give a big thank you to Damien Ruitt for the bed music you hear under my dulcet tones, and the banging intro you hear at the beginning of each and every single episode. And lastly, but certainly not leastly, shoutouts to you. I'll catch you on the flip side.